it is within the team, your boat is serviced to the same level as anyone else. So big budget, small budget, doesn't matter who you are or what you do, your boat is serviced to the exact same level. But in saying that, there's only a certain amount of elements that we do service. Something similar to your car, when you take the car to the garage to be serviced, you're happy for the mechanic to play with the brakes and take their head off the engine, but you're still responsible to put the windscreen washer fluid in, to put air in your tyres, to have it delivered to that garage. So we look after 7 or 8 major items which we believe have a impact towards getting the boat to the finish line or getting the boat to finish each leg. And they have to do with reliability and safety, and as well performance. Well, those 8 elements, there's still another 50 or 60 things that the teams are responsible for, but they're a lot smaller things, and we don't really think they justify the need to fly a technician around the world to service those elements. So, for example, the canting keel system on board is serviced by Caraboni, the company that built and supplied the keel system. So in races gone past, you could have had anyone service your keel system. If you were smart, you would have the guys from Caraboni service your keel system. But if you maybe did not have a big enough budget, you could just have someone the local guy down from the yacht club who's pretty handy with hydraulics, and if there's an issue with the keel system, it's generally the supplier gets the bad rap because it's their keel system that goes down, but not necessarily the guy that serviced it. So from the supplier's point of view, they really like the concept as well, because they can also look after their parts, and they can also use it as a bit of research and a bit of refinement for going forward. We can't change anything now because it's pure one design, but it is. They're always thinking in the back of their mind, what can we change to make the system better, make it work better, make it a bit more efficient in the future. So in races gone past also, shore crews were around a minimum shore crew in the last edition of the race was around about 15, and Groupama, who had the most shore crew, had up to 24 people. In this edition, we don't think there is a performance advantage or a gain by having more than 6 people. So you could have 20 people still, but those extra 14 people are not going to make you go any faster. You might have a shinier boat, but that's probably about it. Because all the major elements, once again, is what we look after and what the suppliers actually service. And that just helps these teams, well, especially in this economic climate, to come to the table and keeps the costs down. And we do that because people and logistics are what costs the money. So you could imagine flying 24 people around the world, just technical shore crew, not to mention everyone else in your team. That costs a lot of money. Whereas here, we still have a lot of people, but they purely come in just for the maintenance period, which we're in the middle of now. And the maintenance period finishes at the end of next weekend. And they all then go back to their normal jobs, which may be back at the Caraboni factory. So if you're paying for those 24 people, generally they're only practicing their trade maybe 30% of the time. The other time they're helping with tents and maybe packing freeze-dried food, and they're not getting as much as efficiently as possible. So that's a big burden on the budget, which hopefully we've relieved quite a bit. It's fair to say there was a lot of scepticism before the race on how it was going to work. I would go around and give keynote presentations to everyone and say how good and wonderful the boatyard's going to be. And I'll leave the room and they're like, good luck with that. But as it's turned out, we have a fantastic team as part of it. And I have a team of 15 full-time people that we build. We're in a unique situation here that we're inside this building, but normally we have a tent which is 65 metres long that has all these workshops in the sail loft floor, and we build that up, and we're of those 15 people, and then the maintenance period starts, and all the other guys from all around the world, from all different nationalities, they fly in, they're there for the week, we get all the maintenance done, and then they leave. I think here in Auckland we're up to maybe 60 people are working on the boats. And that's why we can be quick, like we can have short stopovers. Whether that's the right formula, we're still working it out, whether we want shorter stopovers, longer stopovers. I think we're probably at our limit for the shortest. We're on the short edge of it because we are quite pressed and we need a lot of people. So logistics are a lot of money, but because we only have them for that 5 or 6 days, we save in other ways. So the boatyard, what we look after are the electronics, which as you can imagine, especially in this day and age, everyone requires everything straight away. So the electronics is not only the instruments on board that tell you where you're going, how fast you're going, the lighting, all that sort of thing, but also responsible for getting all the media off the boat, responsible for doing live X calls, that you can do a live Skype call with the boat in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean these days, which is pretty cool. All the pictures, there is a requirement by the onboard reporters to produce a certain amount of content per day. And we have to get that off the boat somehow. So I'm not sure exactly who pays the actual the bill for sending all this stuff, but that'll be pretty expensive, I think. Well, actually, I do know who pays it, and we have a pretty good deal, and you'll see their stickers on a lot of the domes around. Also, there's a lot of monitoring that happens on board, which the electrical world needs to look after that. So we monitor, I think there's something like 11 different loads at any which time. So the forestay load, the side stay loads, the rudder strains, the keel pressures. So there's a lot, and we log all that data. So if there is some sort of breakage, we can always go back and have a look if there is a significant event to see if anything led to that. And we can actually also set that up to trigger if there is a significant event. It starts recording at a much faster rate. And we have the ability to record up to 20 times per second any particular load. Then we also look after the sails, as you can see. And this whole area is actually to work on the sails, plus pretty good for a party, which we've had a few, but we're not allowed to have one in here, which is a bit disappointing. Well, not missing the tent, but some rules about drinking alcohol here or something. I don't know. A bit crazy. But the sails, basically, all the sails are exactly the same. They look different, but that's purely aesthetics, with the different painting on them to suit their brand. So we look after those inside here, and you're allowed 7 sails on board at any which time. And you're only allowed to replace 4 of the sails throughout the whole race. So you're only allowed 11 race sails throughout the whole race. I've done the race twice before. The last time I did it, you were allowed to have 12 sails on board at a time. The time before, you're allowed to have 17 on at a time. So, and I mean, they cost a lot of money, so that's another good way to help bring the budget down. And being one design, you can afford to make them a little bit heavier to ensure that they do last the whole way around the world, which they're definitely going to do from what we've seen so far. We also look after a pretty big, engineering is a pretty big area. And engineer, I mean, just even, you can see on the screen there, we have a lot of, it's quite artistic, but a lot of things go around and spin, and there's a lot of oil. With the canting kill system, that requires quite a significant service. With the winch package on board, there's a lot of moving parts, so that requires a very significant service as well. So there are probably 2 areas where we have the most people involved from a service point of view. And it doesn't matter if the boat is very much similar to the car. If you've done 10,000 k's through the bush or on a rally, or 10,000 kilometres just cruising around at 30 k's an hour, it doesn't matter. At 10,000 k's, the service is generally going to be the same. So we can predict pretty much how long a service is going to be and how many people we do need. We then also look after the boat from a boat building point of view, and that includes, not sure how many are aware, but the boat was built in 4 separate yards around the world. So hulls in Italy, decks in France at Multiplast, hulls at Persco in Italy. the structure decision in Switzerland, and then it was all assembled in the UK at Green Marine. Now that was done for a few different reasons, and the main reason was we just didn't have enough time to build 7 boats within an 18-month period. So building them all the different yards was quite complex to say the least, but it enabled us to get the amount of man hours in that were needed to actually build the boats and spread it over those 4 yards so we could get 7 boats on the start line. It's generally 38,000 hours to build a boat, which is about 7 or 8 months if it was just to be built in 1 yard. So hence why we had to share the love quite a bit. Probably 4 of the biggest yards in the world, who are the biggest competitors also, coming all together on the one project, so that was quite unique in itself. We also look after the running rigging and the masts. The running rigging is all the ropes that you see. So every single rope on board is exactly the same as the other boat, and the team are required to carry the same amount of material. And something quite unique on the running rigging, actually, we have a barcode which is on there, and you can just scan it with your smartphone, and it will tell you what batch number the rope came from, where it came from. We have significant support from the actual raw material supplier from Italy, Mattioli, and then we have a fantastic UK company that builds it all. And we can almost predict before the race starts how much material the teams will use, and they can make all the material before the race starts. So we don't have to fly 20 people around the world making rope the whole time. They can actually make it all before the race starts, and you just take it off the shelf, plug another piece in. And that just as an example, how it saves money. To fly someone around the world for the race, pay them, house them, feed them, is about 120,000 euros from the start of the race to the end of the race. Here, you can buy a full race package of your running rigging of the ropes for 120,000 euros. So if you had someone working full time for your team to do that, you've already spent 120 before you've even left, and you haven't even got the raw material. So that's an example of how the savings are made.
Just from a boat building perspective, how are the boats held up structurally? Structurally,
extremely well. We saw the analysis done on the boats, like by NDT, which is basically ultrasound, the same as if someone's pregnant, exactly the same techniques are used. And they go through all the boats with a fine-tooth comb, but it's like the medical, the more you look, the more you find. And boats, they're still built by hand, and there are going to be anomalies. But what we saw before the race, they were NDT'd whilst the build was going on, and then we actually used 2 companies to ensure we didn't miss anything before the start of the race. Now we use an Italian company that follow us around to do the same sort of thing, to make sure, see if there's anything significant that comes up that we could actually prevent a failure at any stage. But like I said, we saw the more you look for, the more you find. And that may be just a little air void somewhere, but we think now, definitely from Alicante and Cape Town, that we've found all the build anomalies. And now what we do find is generally issues that have happened along the way, which haven't been significant. For example, we found 50 anomalies in Alicante on the boats combined. We found, and some of those are just monitored, they're not repaired. We found maybe 20 in Cape Town, and then by the time we got to Abu Dhabi, we found about only 2 or 3. So we feel, and that's generally what we found with the boats as well, is we get to a point on the first 2 or 3 legs that the boats have little gremlins, especially in electronics. I mean, batteries, salt water, carbon fibre boat, they don't really combine that well. But we found we've got rid of all those little gremlins now, and what we're starting to see are just some genuine wear and tear, some genuine breakages, but they're the things that we want to jump on, and they're why we employ these great suppliers to try and recognise those. so we can actually get on top of it before it happens.
So if a boat comes in and it's ripped out a particular pad eye and you find that maybe taking on another one, would you go and replace on all
Absolutely.
boats?
So for example, Dong Fang, during the first leg, some of you may have seen they broke an aft pad eye.
Yeah.
So they broke a pad eye for whatever reason it was, whether it was overloading, whether it was compromised at the previous time, or anyway, the pad eye broke. Unfortunately, it's like a €200 piece, but it took out a few other items, steering wheels, reaching struts, push bits, a few other items at the same time, which was unfortunate. But we recognised that there was a potential issue. We replaced all the pad eyes in Cape Town with the same ones, but non-compromised. They hadn't been bent and been pulled in the wrong direction or anything, which gave us time in Abu Dhabi to replace them with something a bit more significant. Fortunately, there wasn't another issue up to Abu Dhabi. We've now got significant pad eyes on the back of the boat, and if something breaks now, you're ripping the transom off the boat. So a small issue sometimes can turn into a fleet-wide issue. If there's one issue, we don't dismiss it. If there's two, we definitely look at it. And if it's three, it's a fleet-wide change. It has to happen. So it can turn sometimes small things into big items. But that's the one design. But what we can do now is just have a little walk through, just to walk through some of the workshops, and you can just see some of the guys and girls working and just see how it does go. It seems quiet in here at the moment. That's because everyone's up on the boats. Do we have safety kit? Yeah. And then we can get down the end there. You can have a feel of the sail, how it feels, and actually how strong and stuff it is. And then we'll go for a wander underneath the boats and explain a bit more there.
What happens to these boats at the end of the race?
At the end of the race, these boats are going to do another lap around the world.
Yeah.
So the predecessor, the Volvo 70, there were a couple of boats that did two laps. ABN AMRO 1 went as Delta Lloyd. Telefonica went as Sanya. And actually having sailed on Delta Lloyd and part of the Sanya campaign as well, I'm seeing a bit of a theme. But those boats were certainly getting pretty long in the tooth.
Yeah.
And they were sitting at around, by the time they started the second race, around 60,000 miles. Whereas now SEA, you look at SEA boat, looks brand new. That has done 60,000 miles already. And that'll be fine for another edition, maybe 3. That's one of the big things that was taken away from a project management point of view, was the advantage you could produce before the race starts. We call it internally the human edition, because it's got nothing to do with the boats, it's got nothing to do with the sails, nothing to do with the mast. The only way you win is by the people you have on board. And we try and limit the breakages, of course, to ensure that that is the reason that someone wins or loses. It's the human, the people who are part of the race. So why don't we go down, we'll have a walk through this container here, which is running rigging, and you'll see actually up on one of the walls is like a test frame. So they can actually put rope in there, put a load on it, test it to make sure that everything is built to spec before it goes on the boat. Almost everything that goes on the boats have certificates that go along with them to ensure that everything was almost taking it to a commercial level now, which we're seeing the benefits. We've had apart from the obvious with Vestas, which was a human error, but we've seen every boat finish every leg. The last edition, 3 boats didn't finish the first leg. So it's a pretty good formula. My team was the most important thing, to ensure that I had the right people. Whether it was experience, enthusiasm, or people who had been in the industry. Like, they were kind of the 3 criteria for me. So the majority of my team are people who had done the Volvo Ocean Race before. But I also wanted to bring in some new people, some new blood into the race, because it is quite a tight knit little group, and it is quite hard to break in. But we brought in a few people who hadn't done the race before, who actually are showing that if you approach something with the right enthusiasm, you cannot beat that, regardless of experience. So I'm very happy with who I have. And then for them to work efficiently also is I allowed them, quite modular, but allowed them to fit out their containers or their workshops in whatever manner they wanted to ensure that they could be comfortable and they could be efficient in their own workspace instead of forcing them something upon them, just to ensure that they were comfortable. We'll just walk through here. Every team had 5 layers of carbon fibre, whereas here, what we've done now, we have the 5 rolls of carbon fibre, and any team can come in and use it. They don't need to carry that at all. They don't need to carry resin, they don't need to carry anything like that. They can just walk in here and use it. We have a what we call strict open door policy, that any team member from any team can come in and use whatever they want, whenever they want.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which,
help them if they don't put something
oh yeah, no, they get disciplined. It's normally costs you some beers. But that's also opened up and created a much more friendly race as well.
Yeah.
Because you could have someone from Matfray, a boat builder from Matfray doing a repair, and a boat builder from Alphamedica just working alongside each other. Whereas before you're off in your own little container, nice secret quiet, not allowed to talk to anyone, big secrets. But now, especially one design, that's opened that up significantly. Very busy container, this one. That's the engineering, as I was saying before. That's where thousands and thousands of little parts get pulled apart and put back together. So those blokes need to be on their game.
I haven't even got any time for selfies.
No, they don't have computers. No selfies in that one. We have to do our own. Well, they all speak Australian. Pretty handy. But I think probably Italians keep us over the same. On site. See? Yeah, good. No, I know enough to say how's it going. Yes, we do have one.